let's get into some Andor.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
One of the most anticipated shows, and not surprising at all for me, of how good Andor is. We finally got an episode 4, some of the meat and potatoes of it. We got to see Mon Mothma finally introduced. We got to at least get a glimpse of Luthen's backstory to some extent, and we find out this is all a big money heist. So it's like a big ass bond. It's like a Bond thriller where we're trying to get the gold. And what's the money for? To start the rebellion. So like this whole show and how I take it is literally been a breath of fresh air in the Star Wars world. So I'll let you guys comment first. What did you take? Put your finger down. What did you take away from this?
Before Rudy gets into this, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong. Do you
You're
think
wrong.
Do you think are they going to keep doing these like 3 episode like story arcs every time? Because it seems like this is a beginning of another mini like story within like the overall.
I think you're
story.
looking at it. You're looking at it wrong. I think they just dropped the first 3 episodes because it's a 12 episode series, and they want to have it finished by a certain timeline so it doesn't cross over into other episodes. I think everything from now on is just going to be one, and it's just going to be a fluent story.
You guys didn't think the first 3 episodes was like like episode 1 is the beginning, episode 2 is the middle, episode 3 is the end, like
No.
and then we continue on the story from there. But
No, because like if they didn't drop 3, you'd be like, okay, here's the first one, got it, and you wouldn't think anything of it. Here's the second one, got it.
No, I'm sorry. I thought that was not a complete story, but a complete mini story within the overall story. That's what it felt like to me. And then episode 4, it feels like the beginning of another mini story. And I don't know. Go ahead, Rudy. What do you think?
Well, at first glance, I'll tell you my highlights, and
No. First, tell us your one takeaway. Like if you saw the whole episode, what's the one takeaway, and then we're gonna deep dive into
I
it.
think my one takeaway would be that I feel like this was the beginning of how Cassian Andor starts fighting for a cause, right?
Mhm.
I think that before, and I said it in the last podcast, right, that he was just a thug, like day to day, like hustler. I'll do whatever it takes, and I think this is the first time where he's talking to Luthen, right, in the spaceship, like within the first 10 15 minutes of the episode, where they're like going into hyperspace or whatever, and they're talking. I think that's the first time he convinces him, like, hey, like this is for a cause, and he accepts, right? And him taking that first step into doing this with 7 fucking people, right? He's thinking that he's gonna go in there with a fucking, okay, I like your plan. Where's your army? There's like 6 more dudes, right?
Right.
So I think that definitely was like my biggest takeaway, that this is the beginning, right? Like this is the beginning,
Yeah.
And we'll get more into it, but you tell me, what was yours?
So before like we go, we dive into it. My biggest thing that I loved about this episode is finding out there was a money heist. That you come to find out they're about to. The equivalent that they're stealing is going to pay off not only the whole rebellion. It's going to give them armory, ships, guns, anything that they need to get this whole thing started. So you got to imagine they're stealing billions. That's how big of a payload this is going to be in this planet. Now, going into it, what did you guys catch? What did you guys see that really like had you guys thinking, oh, okay, this is different?
I'll let you go. I just wanted to say one quick thing about the money heist. It's not only all about what that money can give them, but the money they're taking away, right?
Yeah.
Because that is going to definitely ruffle some feathers, right?
And it's not just for one world; it's for an entire sector of the empire.
Yeah.
So imagine how much, like you're saying, billions upon billions. I think.
I look at it this way: it's like they're stealing Fort Knox. That's about in my head. That's how I picture it. They're stealing all the gold in Fort Knox or whatever has the most gold, and they're just taking it all. Um, Diving into this episode, honestly, the thing that really wowed me, other than the beginning scenes where Luthen and Cassian are going back and forth about joining the cause, and like how you said, Rudy, have purpose to this life. The way Luthen transforms into the antique dealer that has rare artifacts into this like beautiful flamboyant man that knows all the high end people, deals with people in government and God knows who else. The transition was amazing. I was like, this
Yes.
guy's really honing in, and I was like, this. That's why they can't figure him out.
Yeah.
Anything that you guys took out of that episode that really stood out?
That kind of reminded me of like when Jim Carrey was doing that
Kaufman,
Andy Kaufman movie. How when he was portraying Andy
Man on the
Kaufman, he was
Moon.
normal, and then when he transformed into like some crazy character, Andy Kaufman was portraying. That's what it
Yeah.
seemed like Lucian was doing when he was normal Lucian, and then into the flamboyant Lucian for the customers and whatnot. I thought that was a good
Yeah,
comparison.
I think that was a good call, dude, because like it happened right in front of our eyes, and I think that speaks to the talent of this actor, right? Because he
Yes.
literally transformed in front of us. He was acting the transformation, but he was actually doing it when he starts doing the smile and everything. Like he was kind of making these movements to be. I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. Like this is so good.
And like, you got introduced to a lot of key old school factors. Not only just people, you got introduced to planets that we finally recognize. Coruscant was a big factor in it. The last time we saw Coruscant is when Anakin became Darth Vader. So to me, that was huge. And then going into it, you got to meet Mon Mothma and her backstory.
Yep.
And that was another key factor for me, only because of her history of being like, you want to call it a founding forefather of the rebellion. Great. Her and I think 4 other people that I mentioned last time, with possibly a mention of Bail Organa being introduced soon. When she said, I had someone.
Yeah. I have a theory about that too, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out key features that I saw, but I don't want to hog the screen. So what key things kind of stood out for you guys?
To me, like it was all over the episode, right? I mean, Mon Mothma is one of the ones that I was like, man, she's been in movies. She's been in the fucking Clone Wars. She's been everywhere, right? And for us to see like the young version, right, like a younger version of her, and like starting to plot, and like one of the key things, or my takeaway, is that when they're talking in the shop, and she says like she wants to introduce somebody new, right? And he kind of had some hesitation, and I was thinking about what's his name? You mentioned them.
Bail Organa.
Yeah, but I think that he's already involved. I think what they want to introduce is Leia. I think she's the new member. I think But
that's her. I mean, I don't think they're introducing. Well, only because you can't introduce the daughter if the dad's already in there.
Well, as a new member, right? Like.
Yeah, but I think he would introduce. He would be like, I want to bring my daughter in. The fact that we haven't seen Bail Organa, I think that's the member. Because like, let's put it this way: what were they talking about in the back room? They were talking about moving funds. We need funds. You said I need to feed my troops.
Yeah.
So if she can't move funds, where can she get funds from? Well, a man that owns a planet, maybe. So like, let's get Bail Organa involved. That's just my guess. It could be anybody at this point.
Yeah. All right. What? Yeah,
Z,
but that was.
What did you? Is there anything you took away from the episode that kind of like, from a perspective of someone that isn't a Star Wars fanatic like me and Rudy.
I liked it. It was a good story overall. I liked how I'm finally seeing how you guys were saying it's kind of like a spy thriller or whatever when you guys described it in the first 3 episodes. It finally
Mhm.
hit me in this episode. Um, and then also on top of that, I like how Andor was really not interested in doing the heist until he told him, "I'll give you money up front. I'll give you 200,000 up front if you do this heist for us." And then
Mhm.
it'll show you how good it is to be a part of something that's on the side of right, on the side of good. And then
Yeah.
maybe in the future you might just decide to be with us for the right reasons and not just for the money. And like how you were saying, that's planting the seeds of the character we saw in Rogue One. So
Mhm.
I like that too. And I kind of love
And
how
he
they
gives them.
the crystal. He gave him the crystal, a $50,000 like down payment on that 200,000.
I
And
mean, from my standpoint, I think I had mentioned something in the last episode that there's a kyber crystal possibly hanging from the rear view
You
mirror
did.
of
You
the
did.
ship,
I was like, oh
and
shit.
then come to find out that that's not the crystal we need to worry about. It's this kyber crystal that Luthen just handed Cassian, and the fact that okay, so I know he told him I'll give you 200,000 credit up front. This thing is worth millions, and I know he said only don't take less than 50. This is a freaking lightsaber weapon's main ingredient.
Yep.
So God knows where this kyber crystal is going to end up.
And this motherfucker just wearing it like he's taking it off. Like I'm like because he says like just bring it back, bring that shit back.
So some of the other people that we got introduced to was you saw I guess the Imperial IRS version or IRS FBI version
Oh yeah, yeah.
of the Imperial Revenue Service or whatever you want to call them, and kind of almost like the heart and soul of our evil bad guys and how they work, and almost you look at them as an evil corporation at this point.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, everything's by the book. Certain things need to happen before certain things don't. And then we got introduced to Grande, or the lady with the blonde hair. She has, I don't want to say she has ulterior motives, but she has insight, and her gut is telling her that there's a rebellion coming. You know, she wants to investigate the stealing of the device that Cassian had, because it's a device that was stolen under her watch. And from other clues that she's been seeing, she's feeling, and she's trying to tell people like, look, man, there's a rebellion coming. I know it, and no one wants to listen to her. So
Yeah.
that was interesting to me.
But yeah, and what was interesting to me is that I think that um she still thinks, right? Like most of them right now that they think they're the good guys, right?
Yeah.
And like Major Partagas, like who was Meister Clyburn from Game of Thrones,
Yes.
or Kyburn, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I think they're already involved. Like they know what's up, right? Because like you were saying, like the last episode, right? I think this is kind of spreading like the Nazis, right? Like they didn't know there were Nazis until like they knew, like, oh shit, well, we're this mass organization, right? But I think that there's some like Supervisor Deidre that like they think they're the good guys and they think they're, you know, just going after somebody that stole something, and she has this gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to see how it's originating, right? Because, you know, of course we know, you know, we jump a few years later and then like there's this mass empire or evil empire, right, that is fucking destroying planets and shit. So it's interesting to see, to say the least. But it definitely
They
jumped
remind
out
me
at me,
so
man.
much. They remind me so much of the Nazis and how their mentality was, and how Hitler had everyone, whether you want to call it brainwashed or not. This is the same thing. The emperor has everyone brainwashed and thinking that he's the good guy,
Mhm.
and that we're doing right when really he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And the perfect example of that is the in episode 3, the that security officer leading the investigation. He thinks he's in the right. He thinks he's the good guy. He's like, they killed two of our security officers. They killed our men. We have to investigate. We have to this and we have to that. He thought he's on the side of right, but as we all know, they're not really. So I thought, you're right. That's a perfect,
I mean, jumping
like,
into some of the Easter eggs that I saw, a lot of the call outs to previous movies. I think this episode was full of them. I mean, we've already talked about how Coruscant was a big factor in it. Um, the fact that when you looked at the antique shop that Luthen's in, you saw in the background a Mandalorian armor that people are talking about belonging to Jango Fett. And
That's
then
crazy.
you saw a shout out in the background where there was almost looking like a Darth Vader samurai suit with the spikes coming out of its head. It was all black. That was literally from Force Unleashed, the video game, where the Star Killer Destroyer, or the Star Killer, I think his name was, and that's what he wore in the game. And I was just like, holy shit. And there was another thing. Oh, when Luthen and Mon Mothma were in the background, you saw both on the shelf a Jedi and a Sith holocron, and holocrons were famous because of the Last Skywalker. So like there was just like little tidbits everywhere, just call outs left and right. And they mentioned I think it was a planet called Anwala 6. Well,
Could be.
they were what it was is like, okay, so there was this scene right before we got introduced to Mon Mothma. A ship was landing and it said it's coming from Anwala 6. What's funny is I don't know how Anwala 6 plays around, but Anwala 7 is where we first met Mandalorian and Grogu. That's where
right.
he found Grogu.
Yeah, that's right.
So like all these callouts are like just mesmerizing to me at this point. Like I get it. That's like deep down diving nerdy, but I'm just the nerd I am.
There's a Jedi too. I'll put him on the screen right now, but his name is Plo Koon, and he was from the Clone Wars, and it was a Jedi that I don't know if you remember. He kind of wore like these goggles and a mask.
Okay, no.
That like it was part of his like biomechanical armor, I guess. Not to be redundant. He died in the Clone Wars, but there was a mask that resembled that so much in that like artsy place that were
the antique shop.
in the antique shop. Yeah, so I think I saw that and I was like, oh shit, is that it? Like I'm wondering if that's it, because I was trying to look at everything, but nonetheless pretty exciting. What about the TIE fighters, man? For a quick second, I was like, oh.
Is there anything you caught, Z, that kind of like had you thinking about previous movies or shows?
The only thing that I wrote down that I don't know why they did this, but I guess they don't even trust their own people. Is he's not using his own name? He's using the name Clem.
Yeah.
Towards the heist crew. So,
now, was that the name of, I guess, his foster father? Was his name Clem?
Oh, I think it was Clem Andor.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I think you might be right.
Give me
So,
a
like,
second.
But I think they wanted to
It is.
protect his identity, right? Because first of all,
Yeah.
he's a fugitive. Like they're looking for him, and they didn't want everybody else to know. Like, because they introduced him as someone that was already part of the plan, right? Because Vel didn't want him, right?
Yeah.
Which brings me to another good point. That Luthen kind of snaps at her, right? And
I liked seeing that.
yeah, like he was, like he's gonna come, like he's gonna help you guys out or whatever. No, but whatever. He's like, you're gonna,
Look at me.
Yeah, you gotta take him, like, and which makes you think, like, are they related? Like, do they what kind of relationship do they have, right? I would like, I'm definitely dying to find out that backstory, right? But she takes him in, and when we meet the other characters, right, that aren't most of them aren't welcoming, except for that one guy, who's from
The young
Black
guy.
Mirror. Yeah, the young guy from Black Mirror, and I think he's on another Netflix show, something about fucking the world or something.
Fucking the world. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
something like that. It's a
Is
pretty
it a
good
porno?
show, actually. No, unfortunately, it's not. But the
Well-
Black Mirror episode, you have to watch it because it's pretty fucked up. But
Well, let me ask you
yeah.
this: what do you guys? Where do you think episode 5 is going to lead to? I'll start with you, Z.
I mean, I just want to see how they're gonna put together. I mean, do the actual heist. I don't know if that's gonna be in 5 or 6, but that's what I'm looking forward to at this point right now. I want to see, and especially after every single person on the heist crew was complaining that they're adding Andor into the crew. I want to see how they're actually going to integrate him into the crew and get the job done. That's what I'm going to be waiting to see how that works, and if they actually get out of there all alive. So that's what I'm anticipating. Rudy?
Yeah, I think it's gonna. So they talk about, and I think I had it written down here, the plan, right, and the Makani Bridani, that's what it was, the star shower, right? That's supposed to be
The meteor
beautiful,
shower.
right? And that was their plan of execution, because from Earth it looks beautiful, but up there it's chaos, right? So the plan of execution is trying to leave, before and once that shit starts exploding, that'll prevent the TIE fighters from following them or whatever. But right after that, we see this character come in, like, in the fucking bike or whatever, and he's like, what the fuck is happening, right? Like, these motherfuckers are, like, right on our asses and whatever. So I think the next episode we're gonna see that, like, the infiltration, like that first step of the infiltration into their base. I think, I'm hoping, and I believe the next episode is going to be a lot more action-packed. I think we're not going to see, like, a lot of, antique shops or anything like that. I think it's going to be a lot more action.
Why you got to say it like that?
Oh, because, man. It's Star Wars.
My biggest thing that I'm looking forward to, I think, is that dinner that she was looking over, or Mon Mothma was looking over the guest list, because a couple of names that she said were people that, remember when Palpatine was still Palpatine and he was talking to the Senate, the two people next to him,
Yep.
one was a very horny looking guy, not horny looking guy, but horny looking guy.
So it looked like Zaya?
Yeah. So his name is Masamidas.
Okay.
So him, and also Slime War. Not making this name up. Slime War was that bald lady next to Palpatine. The thing about her is she's
with the fucking neck shit, right? Like,
yeah. Completely pale looking, bald head. She's very force sensitive.
Yeah.
And she could read people. So, like, if she's having dinner with Mon Mothma and she reads something off of her, what's going to happen next? So, like, I think there's going to be a lot of tension during that dinner scene, that party scene, whatever you want to call it. So, I'm looking forward to that, like, interaction.
That's interesting, because I didn't, I know they prefaced it. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But now that you're saying it, yeah, like, hopefully we'll see those characters.
Yeah.
And if we do see them, I am looking forward to that then too.
Yeah, that would be anything that can include a potential Palpatine cameo, a potential Darth Vader cameo, Leia, anything that can bring us to what we've always loved about these characters, the core characters. If anything that can bring them back in, we're gonna be like drooling at them at the fucking teeth.
Star Wars adjacent news. Did you guys hear that? What's his name? The voice of Darth Vader is retiring from
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones, and he recorded a bunch of stuff, for this AI company, so they could use his voice in future movies and shows, but without him actually needing to be there from now on.
So for Obi-Wan,
Smart.
he didn't really voice anything. They used his voice, but he didn't actually like have to do anything.
Yeah.
They just popped it into the computer, said the words, and that voice came out.
Exactly.
So I think it's okay. You know, he's done it for almost 100 years now.
Yeah,
It's
he's
enough.
like 90 years old or
I
something, man.
mean, what was the first movie? 77 or something?
Probably even before that. Who knows?
I mean, let's say the 70s. That's from the 70s, 80s, 90s.
He was
All
already
those
old. He
ones?
was already an old guy. Like,
60 years, bro. I mean,
I think he's okay.
we're
He
in the
doesn't need the
2020s.
paycheck
This is-
anymore.
Yeah.
he's awesome.
I
bro.
mean, he's probably licensing them his voice.
Oh,
for them to
hell
Oh
pay
yeah.
hell
him,
yeah.
And
Yeah,
he just doesn't have to go to work anymore.
His great grandkids are gonna fucking see paychecks, bro.
Yeah.
So I liked also, before we move on, that they dropped Saw Gerrera. I think they dropped his name, so I think that might be a cameo that we'll see here
Yes,
soon.
we had to see him.
I would love to see.
I mean, he's
Forrest
in the
Whitaker.
trailer, so we're gonna see him.
He
He's in the
is
trailer.
right. He is right. Did
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker's going to be in it.
Yeah. He's in there. Saul Guerrero's gonna show up.
I'm a little
Ah.
drunk right now, so I can't.
Is he going to be more human than machine than he was in Rogue One?
Probably. I don't think he's gonna be asthmatic.
Is it gonna be like
He
Daredevil?
won't need the. No, that's not. It's a sore subject. Too soon. Too soon, man.
We're gonna see Saw Gerrera in episode 25.
He never showed up. It was all a lie. Damn you, Disney.
But are we good with Star Wars? Should we?
Yeah, I think we've covered. I think we've covered all the plot holes, Easter eggs, what we assume is going to happen next. So, moving on.
All right. So speaking of jumping timelines and
What a segue.
and prequels. 10 years.
Oh, man.
How many years, Zaya? 10 years. We start the House of the Dragon episode. What is it? Hold on. Let me jump in there.
Episode 6.
Episode 6. Sorry.